Hey y'all, it's the Jed, and I am still loving this 2022 R1250RT. Today, I want to tell you 3 reasons the RT is a better bike for me than the GS. And hey, I'm getting really close to that 1,000 subscriber line. Would you please help the Jed get to 1,000 subscribers by clicking that subscribe button if you're enjoying the channel? And please hit that like button as well. Thank you, I'd appreciate it. There she is in all her glory. And kind of a cool backdrop. We're at an overlook of Universal City. So that big tower is the Comcast NBC Universal building. Over in the background, if you look close, you can see the spires sticking up from the Harry Potter world on the Universal in the Universal theme park. Behind that is part of the Universal backlot, and then behind that is actually Warner Brothers. Those kind of brownish buildings in the background. Disney is back there as well. And then those are the San Gabriel Mountains that are framing the whole thing. So I've had this bike, I don't know, a week or two. I've only put 350 miles on it. But let me talk to y'all about why I'm enjoying it over the GS. First reason, broadly, is comfort and technology. I'm gonna lump those in together. And well, let's get on the bike and we'll talk about why comfort and technology are superior on this bike for me over the GS. Okay, let's talk about comfort and technology on the R1250RT. And these will be in no particular order because the Jed is on the bike and is rambling. I'm in rambling mode. I have no notes and I haven't pre-planned what I'm about to say. That said, let's start with what's staring us in the face right now, and that's this massive windscreen. In terms of comfort, this windscreen provides a ton of optionality as to how you want to direct the wind and the wind flow over your body. It's in a fairly upright position right now. It may look to you like I am looking through this windscreen. That's because my camera is mounted on the chin of my helmet. In this position, even this upright, I'm actually looking right over the top of this very comfortably, and it's providing a great deal of wind protection, and I'm confident will provide a great deal of protection in the rain as well. And that enables me to stay warm on cold mornings. It also enables me to have a nice quiet bubble in which to vlog and communicate with you. So, windscreen. Now, windscreen on the GS and the GSA are perfectly adequate for those bikes, and you can buy aftermarket ones that are larger. They're not electronically adjustable the way this one is. They are manually adjustable to a degree. Second thing staring us in the face in terms of comfort and technology is this 10.25 or 10.5 inch TFT display, which I am rapidly becoming a big fan of, and the integrated mapping feature as well. The way the map is displayed on this TFT is fantastic, and it's really nicely adjustable. When I get through this stop sign, I will show you that. Now, what am I doing here? Why does that say wrong way? No, that's not on the road. So if I want to zoom in or zoom out, I go to the wonder wheel with my left hand. I try to avoid crashing while I'm doing that, so probably not best to do it on a winding road, but I go to the wonder wheel and I pull left, which lets me zoom in or zoom out. I don't know if you can see that, but it's great. Now, this navigation setup has taken some pretty hard knocks from the community because it relies upon the navigation built into your phone. My phone is an iPhone 12, and it is tucked inside this case, this container on the bike, which is purpose built for it. It has wireless charging inside. It took me a few days to figure out that the case I was using on my phone was interfering with that wireless charging. I was using a mouse case, M-O-U-S, which I highly recommend if you are interested in protecting your phone. It's a great case for that. A bit expensive, but something about it, and I think it may have been the dimensions in terms of how high the edges stick up above the phone, was interfering with wireless charging on the bike. And so I traded with my wife, who also has an iPhone 12. Hers is actually a Pro. Mine is just the regular one. I traded with her. She had a more, I would say, flimsy case, not as thick, and my phone charges just fine wirelessly in this case. Now, there is also a USB port inside that case, and so you are able to use a lightning cable with your iPhone and that USB port and charge wired like that. It is a tight fit in there, and I don't have a particular cable to recommend. I bought one that has a right angle on the lightning side of the cable that I can make fit. It is very tight. I'm gonna just look and see if I can find an even better one. If you have any suggestions, by the way, please leave a comment below. I'd love to know. There's a great shot of downtown LA if you can see it. So that nav system has taken some knocks because you have to connect, quote unquote, your BMW connected app to the bike in order to use the navigation from that app on the TFT display. I will say I was not looking forward to that process. However, I've yet to have a problem connecting, nor have I had a problem with a dropped connection once I've connected. So for now, I give that a thumbs up. It's working quite well for me. This is interesting here. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to go over to that spot. Can I go right on red here? Not there, but I think I could. Why couldn't I just do this? So far so good on navigation on this TFT display. Next item of comfort for me are not only the heated grips, which I had on the GS, but also heated seat, which I did not have on the GS. Now, I recognize, I think beginning in 2021, heated seat is an option on the GS and on the GSA. For me, this was an upgrade. Some folks have complained that there's no longer a heated grip button on the hand controls on the RT, but we now have 4 programmable buttons, and I've just uploaded a few days ago a video on how to program those buttons. You should be able to see it here. And long story short, you can very easily program not only heated grips on one of those buttons, but also heated seat, and they work flawlessly, and in my opinion are just as easy as having a heated grip button on the hand controls. Next item of technology and comfort for me would be the headlights on this bike, which unfortunately I cannot show you while I'm on the bike, but I will put up a still or two. This bike has beautiful LED adaptive lights that are incredibly bright and noticeable, that light up the night. It's also got the LED auxiliary lights, which are also available on the GS and the GSA. But this headlight setup is fantastic, and I love the adaptive headlights. Big plus for me. Next is a comfort factor, and again, this is applicable to me, not necessarily you, and that is seat height. So the seat height on this RT is about an inch lower than the standard seat height on a GS, and that makes a big difference for me. A, because I've got a short inseam, which is 30, and B, because I'm getting older and I've got less hip flexibility, and it is just way easier for me to get on and off this bike than it was on the GS. That leads to riding position. Again, this is a personal thing. The GS and the GSA are incredibly comfortable. There I was taking off in second gear. The GS and the GSA are incredibly comfortable bikes in terms of riding position because you are very upright and your legs are in a very neutral position. Many people, including me, really enjoy that riding position. However, I also enjoy the riding position on this bike, which I would not say is neutral. I would say it leans a tiny bit sport. And by that I mean the foot pegs are slightly back so that my legs are slightly bent past 90 degrees, very slightly. I am not leaned forward. I have no weight on the bars. Some people believe these bars are too low, and there are a number of companies, primarily Ilium and Wunderlich, who make bar backs for these, if you so desire. I'm 50-50 on whether I'll put them on. I'm really actually enjoying these bars the way they are. I think they help with handling to a degree, and we'll get to that in a minute. I would say for me though, seat height is the comfort factor. Seat position is probably a neutral between the GS and this bike. Next, in terms of technology / comfort, I guess, is central locking on this bike. There's a button on the right control that looks like a key, and if I press that button, I'm able to lock the whole bike. The saddlebags lock. If I have a top case on, it will lock as well, and that's a really nice feature. As much as I enjoyed the aluminum panniers on the GS, and mine came with them, I didn't have to buy them separately, I rarely locked them because for me it was just a pain to have to get my key out and lock them each time I was on and off the bike, and then I could never remember whether they were locked or not. So I'd go to open it, it'd be locked, and I'd have to reach in and get my key. I know this is a this is a first world problem, but the central locking on this bike is quite handy, and I enjoy it quite a lot already. I am gonna put a top case on this, by the way. I've ordered one. At the time I ordered it, there were 0 Black Storm metallic 49-liter top cases in the country. There were some in Germany that are supposed to hit the West Coast, I think on Monday, and hopefully just a few days from there to my dealer. We'll see. I'm going to leave it there on technology and comfort. I'm sure I'm missing something big, and if I am, I'll chyron it on the screen for you. Okay, so we've covered technology and comfort. Let's move to the biggest of the 3 areas, and that is handling. There's a lot to talk about here, again, in no particular order. Just starting with the most obvious, though, the biggest difference, well, the two biggest differences, I guess, between this bike and the GS or GSA are going to be the rake and trail, and I guess as part of that, the overall wheelbase, and then the suspension travel. And I think those things make up the bulk of whatever handling difference there is between this bike and a GS and a GSA. Now, I will say my overwhelming reaction when I first got on a GSA and then later a GS was how incredibly well they handle in the corners. I was blown away. And so I never expected to be able to say there's a drastic improvement in handling from those bikes to this bike, and yet there is. Without a doubt, this bike sticks in the corners better than those bikes do. It's much more confidence inspiring. I can take corners much faster and still feel within my comfort zone. And I think that has everything to do with wheelbase, with a steeper rake, and the accompanying difference in trail, and also in shorter suspension that's just, you know, slightly less sloppy. And that's probably an unfair word, because there is nothing sloppy about the GS or the GSA. This bike is a rocket in the canyons. If you haven't demoed one, it's worth demoing just to feel how great this thing is in the corners. You do feel like you're on a sport bike at that moment. I'm not going to talk too technically about rake and trail. I'll put up the wheelbase numbers, but BMW publishes their rake and trail data in a way that I frankly don't understand. It's different than the way every other bike manufacturer does that I've seen. And so I'm not going to try to compare those numbers. If you are confident you understand them and understand the difference between those of the GS and GSA and those of the RT, by all means comment. I will put the comparison on travel and I guess on wheelbase on screen. Something I have not seen spoken about anywhere else as a difference is well, two things. One, the rear subframe is different on this bike. It's much beefier. The members of that subframe are less radial than they are on the, or I guess less tubular than they are on the GS and the GSA. It's beefier, I suspect because this is a slightly heavier bike, but I wonder if that creates some stiffness that is a plus in terms of handling. And then the other thing is the final drive ratio is different on the RT than it is on the GS or the GSA. Everything else about the drivetrain appears to be the same. It's the same engine, it's the same transmission, the published peak horsepower and torque numbers are the same, but that final drive ratio is different. And again, the numbers are a little confusing, but they have to, in my opinion, create a difference in where that torque peaks and also in top speed. And I'm not sure how to interpret the difference yet. I'm going to do some digging on that. But to me, the RT is a little quicker off the line than the GS or the GSA. And I don't understand the data yet enough to know if that makes sense, given the difference in that ratio, or what. But I'm going to look into that. If you know something about that, please comment below. And I guess the last difference I'll talk about that that makes a difference in the handling has got to be wheel and tire size. So front wheel on this bike is a 17 versus a 19 on the GS and the GSA. Of course, these are cast wheels. I had laced wheels on both of my GS bikes, and the rear tire on this bike is a beefier tire than it is, I believe, on the GS and the GSA. So all of those things make this bike handle differently, and I think better on street. Of course, I will not ride this off-road. Kenny has ridden his off-road. He's an accomplished motocross racer, and he loves riding his RT off-road, except he doesn't love cleaning it up after, and so I think he's stopped doing it. That is a bunch of handling data. The bottom line for me is I believe this bike handles noticeably better on street than the GS. That's where I do I do all of my riding now. I do have a Honda CRF 450X if I want to go off-road, but this bike will not be going off-road, and consequently I give it the thumbs up on performance and handling. Okay, so we've talked about comfort and technology. We've talked about handling. Let's talk about the third reason the RT is a better bike for me. And for this one, I actually don't have to get back on the bike. I can just show you. Do you see it? It's staring you right in the face. It's that fuel tank. There's an advantage here of 6.6 gallons in this tank to 5.3 gallons on the GS. And it's not a massive difference, but if you're riding mostly on the street, and if you're planning to go anywhere of distance, it's peace of mind. You're that much more likely to get where you're going without having to scramble to find fuel. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, but the Jed, the GSA, has an even bigger tank than the RT. And you'd be right. Personally, for me, I don't like the look of that bike with that tank. I shouldn't say I don't like it. I prefer the look of the GS to the GSA, and I prefer the weight of the GS to the GSA. To me, having a GSA with a full fuel tank, full luggage, makes it that less capable off-road, which is, to me, why you get that bike. So, reason number 3, fuel capacity. I know those are simplistic for the most part. They are nuanced. They are shades of gray, which leads me back to the GS, the GSA are incredible bikes. The RT is an incredible bike. Pick the one that you think makes the most sense to you, and by all means, get out and ride it. So, if you disagree with me, great. Please comment below and tell me why. And there's not a right and wrong answer to any of this, of course. And as I've said in this video and many times, I love the GS and the GSA. For 342 miles, I have loved this bike a little more. I'm going to sign off. I will say thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the channel. And please have a great day.